Hey y'all, it's David. Welcome back to episode 10 of the Knowing God playlist, the playlist that follows my Hearing Love book. It's available in hardback, paperback, or ebook, but I'll put the link to my website in the description, and the website will take you to the book, it will take you to teaching, it will take you to music, it will take you to ways to give to the ministry. And I appreciate everyone who's following this series, everyone who's read the book, everyone who purchases music, and all those past, present, and future who have and will give to the ministry. So thank you guys so much. Every little bit counts. So even if you're a $2 a month patron, it's such a big deal. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It helps me stay focused on the things that I feel like the Lord's called me to, instead of having my attention divided. But, I will say, and this has nothing to do with the devotional, but maybe it does in a sneaky way, because the last Devo, I focused on adjusting your routine. I often have people now see my state of life at the present time, and they see me in full-time ministry, and so they just imagine, you have all this time for the Word. And so when I call them to read the Bible in a serious way, to schedule a meaningful time for prayer and meditation, silence, which is what this video will be about, common reply I get is, I don't have time like you do, which has become kind of a funny reply. So when I first came to the Lord, I was a full-time college student. I was working 2 jobs and donating plasma. But I still fell so deeply in love with Jesus that I was fighting for every little second that I could. I'm maximizing my break to read. During my 15-minute breaks, during my lunch breaks, in between jobs, looking where I'm at now, I feel like I actually read more because I was so intentional with my time. I read more, prayed more when I was working full-time. Now that I'm in full-time ministry, man, there's so many good things that take my attention that it's so much more of a challenge to be able to read and pray. And the temptation is to rely on my history of like, oh, I've been there and done that. But to keep that fresh oil and that fresh river just flowing. So it's actually more of a challenge now. So when people say, I don't have time like you do, I'm like, It's a funny thing to me now, because we all make time for the things that are important to us. And so just hearkening back even to the episode before this of don't be so scared to change your routine and put in new things. But in this episode, coming off the heels of that previous one of don't be afraid to change your routine and set spiritual routines, this one is closely related. In chapter 10, it's titled Silence, Making Room for the Humble King. And in this chapter, I put something back on the table as far as something that should be in your routine, and that's really silence. Silence is so foolish because it feels like you're not doing anything. But if you can shut out all the noise and begin to become aware of your affections in your heart, and then sit in silence, don't speak a word. If something comes to your mind like something to do, because it's inevitable. Every time you sit down to meditate, read, pray, especially silence, if you're a busy, motivated person, all these things are going to start flooding into your mind. Oh, I've got to do this. Oh, and I forgot to do this. And oh, yeah, I got to tell this person this thing. Write those things down and then let your brain forget about it, and then just continue in silence. But the discipline of silence is just so foolish, especially when there's so many good things to do, that sitting down for 30 minutes or even an hour doing nothing but just sitting in silence, oh my goodness, it's such a beautiful practice. And the thing I really want to point out in this video is silence is active relationship building with Jesus. And I would hearken back to the beginning of the book when we looked at Mary of Bethany. And remember when Mary had poured out the ointment all over Jesus and the disciples became indignant and they said, why this waste? But Jesus rebukes them and says, leave her alone. She has done a good work for me. And so remember, what we tend to understand as waste, like this silence, this time-wasting thing, Jesus actually calls work. If we are able to discipline our mind to shut out all the noise and sit before Him in this active relationship building process. And it's a beautiful thing, because in the chapter I look at how the salvation of the Lord breaks in, how the voice of the Lord breaks in those moments when you just run out of words and you just sit with Him, cultivating an awareness of His presence on your heart. Maybe you're familiar with this in interpersonal relationships, especially our closer relationships. There's times where I look at my wife and we're not saying anything, we're just in each other's presence, but I just become acutely aware that oh my gosh, I love her and she's here with me and this is amazing. And I don't, necessarily articulate all these things, but my heart just starts really overflowing with love for her. Same like with the kids. Have you ever watched your kids sleep or take a nap on the couch or watch them play in the backyard or do something that they enjoy and your heart begins to just overflow? You're sitting there in silence, just appreciating the beauty of what's before you, of the relationships before you. So it's the same way with Jesus. Even though he's invisible, he's given us descriptions in the Word of what he looks like, what his home looks like. And so one of the things I love to do, whether I'm going to sleep or just sitting in that space of silence before the Lord, is Isaiah chapter 6, Revelation 4 and 5, and really the whole book of Revelation is just filled with so much beautiful imagery to just set my mind on things above where Christ is. Behold those things with the eyes of my heart, as Paul terms it in Ephesians chapter 1. And then just sit there with this affection-based awareness that he's here and that is my home up there and I'm going there, but we're also here. And it's just this beautiful I and you and me, and sitting in silence is such an important part. And that's even why I did the soundtrack the way that I did. So every time I do one of these episodes, I release on YouTube the individual track that was inspired by each chapter. And so this track is going to be Silence. And it's interesting, the previous chapter in the soundtrack was this noisy, fast-moving, synthy track that I think is really representative of the fight to keep your spirit sensitive before him, to say no to the things that lull you to sleep and make you lazy. And so sitting in silence before the Lord isn't a lazy thing, but it's a pulling back of the distractions to sit before the Lord. And so the previous music soundtrack for the last chapter was this noisy fight song type thing. But then you get to this chapter called Silence. And it's not completely silent, but it just has this low pad laying underneath with a few little textures, nothing much going on, and the decibel level is very low. So when you're listening to the whole album, it almost seems like there's something wrong with the album or your music stopped. And it's really on purpose to kind of jolt people into like, hey, something's wrong, because it does really take that jolting of routine and buying into, okay, I'm not wasting my time sitting here in silence, but this is active relationship building with God. And we have such a performance-driven society, especially if you're in the American or Western business world. Like everything's driven by metrics, and if you're not growing, you're dying, and you're always looking for what's going to create that edge of new growth, that new thing. And now with the onslaught of social media in these last couple decades, how that's really changed the face of everything. Everything's go, 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 go. And even when you're sitting down to veg, because you're so worn out from everything, what do? We get on Facebook and we think we're resting. But really it's just go, 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 go. Read this, scroll past this, read this, scroll past this. So like, put that down. Silence your cell phones. Put it away in another room. Put it away in a drawer. And begin to cultivate this discipline. One of the new things that Allie and I are doing in this season of life, we found ourselves wanting to watch movies together more often. That's one of the things that we can do together and sit on the couch and sit next to each other. So it's great to be next to each other, but very rarely would we actually watch a movie. For the most part, we're like flipping through stuff and watching trailers, and we were really good at finding movies we weren't that interested in and didn't really want to watch. So, it'd be a certain time at night, and then like an hour and a half, 2 hours go by, and we're still like, yeah, don't want to watch that, don't want to watch that. So we might have 50 movies that we don't want to watch, and we still haven't found the one that we want to watch. But gosh, now we're tired, we didn't really watch the movie, we're kind of aggravated because we didn't pick one out. And this would go on kind of often. And so recently we've actually caught ourselves, hey, this is a waste of time. Like, I still want to watch a movie, but let's watch a movie when we know what we actually want to watch instead of searching for all this stuff, because it ends up being just finding all the movies we don't want to watch. And so we just stopped that nonsense. And at the end of the night now, instead of searching for movies we don't want to watch, we put on jazz. Some nice, soft piano jazz at night, and that just happens to be the music we both agree on, because we've tried to read at the same time, and we can't ever agree on silence or music, or if there is music, like what kind of music, because my music bugs her, her music bugs me. And so jazz is it. Soft piano jazz actually works. So it's a miracle. We found music, and so we've been coming together in the evenings to just have those moments of silence, those moments of stillness and moments of reading, and we might interact a little bit and see what each other's getting from what we're reading, but for the most part, it's just been so much more productive, like really good for our heart and soul, especially compared to just flipping through Amazon and Netflix and iTunes and all the movie things and like, nope, don't want to watch that. Nope, don't want to watch that. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, let's watch this trailer. Okay, nope, and then nope, don't want to watch that. Nope, and just on and on it would go. And so maybe there's space like that for you that would be really easy to put something meaningful into that time spot that you've spent for vegging. But man, if I can just encourage you, and the chapter in the book encourage you to just peel back, understand you're not doing nothing. And this is active relationship building with the person of God. Like sitting in those places of silence. I remember some of my best memories as a kid was riding in the truck with my dad, hour or so trip somewhere, and we didn't hardly say a word. But those were just such great times with my dad. And so it's the same thing, like get in the truck, sit with your dad. You don't have to say anything. You can if you want to, but really just those moments of silence to just peel back and get outside of the busyness. Again, hearkening back to the last episode, we just get so overrun by so many good things that we're so busy. But then when we go into this binge veg mode where we just want to shut off our minds and veg out and just blob, as Allie and I call it, we tend to blob with something just as fast-paced. Again, just scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom. Scroll, 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 scroll. And goodness gracious, just peeling away from that to sit before the Lord. And silence is one of those things that helps begin to instill a beautiful discipline of being able to wait on the Lord. And remember, He is good to those who wait for Him. So that is all that I have for today. Thanks for watching another episode of the Knowing God playlist. We're halfway done, unless I do the appendices at the end. So we'll see, because there's a few appendix sections I'd like to discuss. But anyway, as far as the chapters 1 through 20, we're halfway done. We're done with chapter 10. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.